Retro Future.
Greetings everyone, I am Banzert Bokel, creator of the Association of Ishtar, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Radio Retro Future, where I talk about steampunk in my series like the Steampunk Beginner's Guide, and we are also working on our own lore series, the Association of Ishtar, and currently I am working on the RPG Night Watch, which is the game inspired by our setting, the Association of Ishtar, and that is exactly what I want to talk about today. Sorry for the haphazard thing that I'm not doing my usual style, however, this is intended for the hundreds of people that are currently following our Kickstarter Night Watch. Links are all down below, and including all those people that have already made a reservation, which is amazing because I did not think that would happen, but there we go. There are already people making reservations, and by doing so you are entitled to a mini expansion, which I've got a prototype here, really cheap. I made the wrong, yeah. So these are the prototypes for our fortune card system, which are part of the Night Watch combat system. I actually have better ones. I should have gotten those. I'm very pressed for time at the moment. If you make a reservation, you'll get a card expansion, Hazardous Environments, which will really spice up both the environments of the game, but the combat in particular. Now, I got a good question for somebody who's actually already on our Discord for a while, where you can play test the game so you don't have to wait. If you are, you want to be ensured that this is the game for you, go to our Discord. Links is down below, but they'll be there throughout now and October. And we'll be presenting the prototype on Spiel Esse at the start of the month. If everything goes all right, I really hope so. We'll see. I'm still very stressed out. So that's why I'm also stepping back for a week of the game, because people are really starting to get angry at me. Where to start with the Association of Ishtar? That's the question. And after that I also go quickly into some Q&A questions that people submitted on the Discord. Again, link down below. So I'll get to those as well. Now, about the Association of Ishtar, as I said, I started out as a YouTuber making the Steampunk Beginner's Guide, and that kind of spiraled into making my own type of fiction, because I talked a lot about world building and steampunk, not just costuming but also the genre. That finally led into me writing my own fiction, which started with short stories that are sold as separate small anthologies. And these are files written by the Association of Ishtar. You see, what is happening on this world is that there's all these gateways opening up to other worlds called rifts. And the Association of Ishtar is investigating these and trying to ascertain if they are a threat for humanity. And of course, trying to destroy any potential threats and their collaborators, as there was also all these rift cults, as some call them, who are worshipping some of these aliens. There's also another thing that's very important in this world, is that Traveler's Decay is a unexplained phenomena that destroys everything that leaves its own plane of origin. So if you go from the home world of the Association to another world, you might die if you stay too long. It will not kill you directly, but it will kill you in like a month's time or so. This is of course explained in the game with mechanics. The mechanics will be specified in the core rulebook. We have an associate book, which we're currently at the point of publishing, and then we have the core rulebook, which have like all the rules, but enough about that. So where to start? Like I said, we started with the short stories, and the short stories is what inspired the bigger books. We've got about 8 of them now, and I'm working on more, including short stories. And all the short stories I publish on my REAM page, where you can read a new one for free every week. So if you go there, you can already start exploring the various concepts and enemies and phenomena that exist in the Association of Ishtar. So that's for how most people get started, and that's highly recommend how you get started. Or you can just get one of these on our Gumroad store. We have our own store. You can also buy them on Amazon, all that there, but if you want to support me, please get them on Gumroad. And with that said, let's get into the first novel I've written in the series. This is The Wrench in the Machine, one that I need to return because it's damaged. Yeah, this is kind of the proof of concept for the series. All the books that I've written so far can all be written separately. They all have their own storylines. They don't have cliffhangers or anything like that. So it really depends on what you're in the mood for, because not all the books are the same. There are like themes, there are returning characters, they all have their own focus, so to speak. And The Wrench in the Machine, as I said, it's a proof of concept, which means that the short stories that are here are also included in this one. However, this is how you want to read them, as I always say. Because here they're in bland novel form, and here they're completely colorized. They look like actual dossiers, like you can see on the cover. Anyway, A Wrench in the Machine is more of a police procedural. It's really, you are an investigator in this world. You're discovering the rift for the first time, and that's what the story arc of the main character, Olboro, is about. And we're also getting introduced to Igraine and Enwin. And that brings us to the second book, and what I was talking about regarding themes. This is Bound for the Styx, and Bound for the Styx takes place on one of these other worlds. In this book, Igraine is the main character, who has her doll, Enwin, who is hiding somewhere. I don't know where she is at the moment. But yeah, she's around. And yeah, this one is more sci-fi fantasy, and that's because, well, the city is just more sci-fi fantasy. It's also more young adult. The character is younger, so it goes. There's also element of coming to age, and you can just pick this book up, start reading, and enjoy it without having read The Wrench in the Machine. I'm doing that intentionally. I just want to be I don't like having trilogies and that type of stuff. Now, I am starting on that, but more on that later. As for the short stories that inspired Bound for the Styx, I have them here. This is the Arcology Companion. These are not included in Bound for the Styx. So you read Bound for the Styx, you come across all these strange elements, and then you read the Arcology Companion, and then you realize the absolute horrors that is really behind it. So there you go. The exact history of arcology that appears in the book is kind of still of a mystery. However, we are also working on a comic that is going to take you to the city of arcology, which is called Journey to Elysium, and we have already one part illustrated by our usual illustrator, Johan Alexander. He's an amazing artist. He's also doing the art for the RPG as well, and everyone loves his art. His coloring is amazing, yeah, I hope to finish a Journey to Elysium with him. I also am in the market for a second illustrator because we're just overworked. It's as simple as that, but that's a me problem. Now, I already mentioned Enwin. And Enwin is a doll like any other during the first two books. However, people really enjoyed the conversations that the girl Igraine was having with her doll Enwin. So I kind of started doing some what-if short stories where Enwin has come to life. So this is kind of like the unofficial part 3 in the series chronologically, where Igraine, the main character, has grown all up. And now Enwin is coming to life, and now Igraine has to take care of that naughty little doll. So it's not so much a comedy as a slice of life. Like, there is a very big pulp aspect to it, and there is a twist, of course, in why has Enwin come to life. But it's all very much science fiction. There's no magical voodoo going on. Enwin is an automaton. And to figure out how that all happened, go check out Enwin. It's adorable. And again, you can just pick it up. It's written to be standalone. There's going to be a part 2 and 3. But yeah, they're kind of like miniseries. That brings me to The Casket Girls, which is also a kind of a miniseries. Again, the first part you can just pick up and read. I'll do my best. This was also the recent book. Those who have found us through a Kickstarter probably also recognize cover. Now, this is the collector's cover. We've got 2 covers for The Casket Girls Part 1, which will be on offer on the Kickstarter as well. All the books will be on offer on the Kickstarter. Maybe we'll even make like a special package. Includes Night Watch and A Wrench in the Machine, because they kind of like follow up each other. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on what kind of reward packages you'd like to see. We're gonna have the Associates book, which is really just for people who are not sure they want to invest a lot of money into the system, or just want a book they can just hand to players that explains like how everything works. It will not include everything. Like it will make a mention of Traveler's Decay and kind of explain what it does. It does not explain the mechanics, for instance. It does not include rules for drones. It does include the road for vehicles. They work very similar anyway, so that's not that much of a bad. So it's really a book that really kind of like explains the general concepts, while the core rule book contains like the full lore. It contains Traveler's Decay, rules for drones, vehicles, all the skills, all the tiers, which are kind of like the levels that Associate can reach. So yeah, it will just be a far more complete book, while the other is really just an introduction. And the rules are written for people who do not have time to learn a new system. Like, I'm a very busy man. I try to write all these books, and you know, I just noticed myself whenever I looked at other steampunk RPGs in preparation for Nightwatch, I just did not feel any inclination to learn these systems. So this is a very beginner-friendly system. It's very easy to get into. It's ideal if you want to get people in roleplay in general. We already had seen that during our playtest, where people who have not played in years or have not played RPGs ever just get it, because I took a lot of inspiration from board game rules. Board game rules and Savage Worlds, and somebody asked a question about that, why I picked Savage Worlds and not Dungeons & Dragons. So yeah, that's really the short introduction to the products we have. We also have a coloring book. That was actually our first Kickstarter. So if you want to learn more, we've got loads of free content. We have an entire lore series on our YouTube channel. I'll link the first episode down below, so you can just get into the series right away, start exploring this series. People are loving the setting, because there's also nothing like it. And yeah, we also have audiobooks of The Wrench in the Machine and Bound for the Sticks, recorded, narrated, and edited by me. I also do audiobooks on my own channel of other steampunk authors as well, and some science fiction short stories. Just join the Discord. We have a community. We are really working on expanding it, and the more input you give us, the more we can accommodate you in creating this steampunk community. And one of the things, also the reason why I picked for short stories to start up the series with, so people can also insert their own concepts into the series through writing short stories or submitting concept blurbs. And I have rules for that. Again, you can find them on the Discord. And with that, I want to go quickly into some Q&As that I got on Discord. If you've got questions about the system, about the mechanics, about the lore, please submit them down below so I can answer them in a other Q&A, which will be better done than this one. So let's go. Where was it? So the first Q&A question by Matt Cuz Bard. With the many indie games going with the 5th system or D20 system because of the popularity of 5e, 5e means 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, what made you decide to go with a system inspired by Savage Worlds? Please correct me if I'm wrong. Also, how will Nightwatch put its own twist on the system? Okay, first of all, I never enjoyed D&D. I don't like fantasy overall. It's one of the reasons why I write science fiction. I am kind of like experimenting with it. There will be some Gaslamp ideas in the next novel. I'm compiling ideas for that. But when I work on the fantasy related stuff, you know, it just becomes like this massive thing. So I really need to be very careful balancing science fiction with fantasy. I made videos on this if you want to explore that topic with me more. So again, go visit our YouTube channel and have a look around at my thoughts on Gaslamp Fantasy. That said, so I never enjoyed Dungeons & Dragons. Second, Dungeons & Dragons is a very combat-oriented game. It's made for dungeon delving, as they say. So it's for going from combat to combat to combat to combat. Now, I know a lot of people don't use it that way, in which case I'm wondering, why do you even still use Dungeons & Dragons if that's not the type of stuff? Because there are so many role-playing systems that accommodate role-playing better than D&D does. Now, I also don't like class systems. Like, originally we wanted to have a class, or at least, I should say, my game developer wanted to have a class system. But, you know, as I worked on Nightwatch, it was just not gonna work with what I had in, you know, it just isn't me. And that's something that always annoyed me about Dungeons & Dragons as well. And what I loved about Savage Worlds is that, like I said, I want a system that I can understand just by looking at the character sheet. And Savage Worlds, well, it got my eyes that Savage World, and it's not the only system that does this, uses dice instead of statistics. What I mean by that is that your attribute is a D8 or D12. It's not like a 20, okay? What does 20 mean? I don't know. It could be good, could be bad. It's just a number. So I really like the fact it is physical. That was my first reason to go with Savage Worlds. And then I started exploring the system and see what I do. Now, we modified a lot. We have a lot of the dice rolling mechanics. We kept those. We kept the boon die, which is kind of like a backup die, so you always roll 2 dice. But I simplified it, streamlined a little more. All the exceptions where, oh, now you roll a boon die, but now you don't. And what else have I done? Yeah, and of course, like I said, I have added the fortune system, which is kind of a system that... I'll explain this in a separate video, but the idea is that during combat, first of all, they determine initiative. They all have a number from 1 to 10. And the second is they kind of like democratize the bad stuff that happens to the players. So they add all kinds of randomness, both positive and negative, to the playing experience during combat. So your combats can completely run out of control. In a way, but you know, that is why you roleplay, right? And that's the second thing. It's also to bring role-playing into combat. Like, oh, now this happens to me. Oh, no, I need to do something completely unrelated to combat to fix this. Well, it's not random because people choose the cards at the start of the round, but I'll make a separate video on that. What else did we do? Like I said, I simplified a lot of stuff. Took a lot of inspiration from various board game mechanics, and that is also especially from the Call of Cthulhu themed games, where, for example, boss monsters, instead of being physically strong or throwing fireballs, they have like this effect around them that kills the players indirectly, not through wounds but through other effects. You probably already answered this question already, but what is this steampunk setting? Is it grim, dark, or more of a natural look at the world, if it was a steampunk world? Now, I already kind of like explained the idea, so there are these preternatural events. You know, that will always be a thing with speculative fiction. You always have to dive into the more fantastical. But definitely it's the reaction to the world. Like, one of my problems with a lot of the steampunk is that I read that A, it's usually gas lamp, or it's often gothic horror with zombies and all that type of stuff, and then you've got like all these very fantastical classes with special powers and all that, and that's not here. Here you really definitely are reliant on your technology, like for example these chassis de bataille, the CB3s, which is what the Casket Girls are about. And yes, we have STLs of these, including other characters that I still need to paint before Spiel. Anyway, so yeah, we are working on our own product line. We are working on creating enemies as well. We already have 3D printable heroes, like I just showed you. And now we have some aliens in development as well. Look forward to that. And what else do we have? Yeah, we are working on tokens as well. And that's one of the reasons why we have not put the prices up, because we are not sure how we're gonna do the tokens. But essentially, all the illustrations made by Johan have already been made into a sheet to publish. So you can have, instead of expensive 3D printed figures, you can have like full color character tokens of both enemies and heroes alike. So that's for those who prefer that. Is it more grimdark? I mean, it kind of depends on how you define grimdark. I mean, there's definitely an element of Lovecraftian. Even people who start reading The Wrench in the Machine, even if the book starts more as a typical alternate history, a lot of people say, wow, this really feels Lovecraftian, even though there are no such creatures in the book series. That is always expanding as well. I have not yet written a lot about greater gods or anything like that, although I kind of assume they are. But we're gonna change that with when we bring out a separate gas lamp expansion. And I say expansion because, like, we already have rules for a more fantastical take, so you kind of can have your magic, as it were, that's still kind of science fiction-y. But the problem was, and this is, I showed this to various people on the Discord and what their thoughts were. It's like, wow, they loved it, but it was like, wow, this is not what the Association of Ishtar is really about. So that's why we are publishing those rules at a later date separately if there is demand for it. So people can make the distinction between the two. And so this is why I'm kind of struggling with the third novel, because every time I'm trying to create motivations for the villains, I kind of run into that whole magic thing, and it just becomes like this weird jumble of stuff. And this is why I do not like fantasy, because magic just breaks things if handled not properly. I mean, you look at J.K. Rowling's world, which, I mean, at the start of the books it's fine, but then when you go down the series, like, things start contradicting each other. I mean, not necessarily in lore-breaking ways, but just things where your brain goes, really? They could have done this all along? That's the problem. When we incorporate this, you cannot go back. So I'm very careful setting the limits, so people are like, wow, but they could always have done this. Why didn't they use that in the past? And this is also something that you see in Star Wars in particular when it comes to the prequel stuff. So that's things that occupy me. Sorry, I am dribbling. And that's so much for the Q&A at the moment. Like I said, if you've got questions about the setting, please submit them. If you've got ideas for alternate history-esque stuff that you want to see included in Nightwatch, go to our Discord and start join the discussions we are having there. Currently, I've spent very little time working on the United States because I wanted to hear from Americans what they want in that setting. So right now, one of our game masters is actually making plans for New York. So that's awesome, and that's what I want to see. And we also want to do a kind of alt history Crimean War, so to kind of like set a good foundation for all the weapon systems and such. And now I'm starting to ramble. Yeah, we have a lot of ambitions for the series overall, not just gaming wise, but also story wise. Like, we want to have more of these newer models. Like, this is really the baseline model, the first of the first. Well, it's the third, but technically speaking. But yeah, I'm working on the video that describes the first of the machines. That's gonna be a lore video, the first Casket Girl. We are working on the final art page for that, because all the lore videos have original art. So if you want to start exploring the world of the Association of Ishtar, stay on this YouTube channel. Links down below. And with that, folks, I hope you'll support this project. We invested a lot of time and money in this. It's gonna be my first game, but I have a good feeling about this. So far, people are loving it. They're loving the setting. They're loving the system. I have high hopes. I'm looking positively at the campaign at the moment, so I'm really looking forward to all your reactions. The eyes on this project we are reaching the first 1,000 visits, so I'm really looking forward to all of you joining our project. Response rates have been above expectation. Yeah, I hope you'll enjoy. And with that said, folks, I'm just gonna bid you adieu, and as always, make things your way. Good night.